music lovers, welcome to Tune Talk. We are at the vault with Chris Redburn.
Thank you for
How
having me.
how are you?
I'm doing good.
So I say how are you because we've been sitting here for an hour having some of the best discussions about what we're going to talk about. And the list is long, so be prepared. Chris is such an interesting guy, and he's got a lot going on. I mean, he is a busybody. I mean, you've got the new radio station you just started, Rock Hop Radio. You're a producer, you've DJ'd. I mean, you manage people. I mean, you're a rapper. You got so much going on. So, how did this radio station come about?
The radio station is kind of something I've had in my mind for a while, which, as an artist and an entrepreneur, we all have things going on in our minds and we want to build them. And this is just something that I've always wanted to do. Um, I ran into the right people to end up, start building the platform. So when we came up with the ideas, because it's not easy. Not one person can do it. And it's an internet radio station, and it needs to be programmed. You have to have a program director to program all the music. You have to, so there's three of us that put the station together as a whole, and of course it's anything from rock to rap, anything in between, any kind of fused music. So there's a certain market for it.
Yeah.
Certain artists, certain rappers, certain it's new, anything from new metal. And these days there's a lot of fused music.
Is that
So I felt like it
where-
was more of a better time to do it was now because you know FM radio, they're programmed, but there's a lot of business that goes on with that music.
Yeah.
With platforms like this, it's kind of like if you like this, you're gonna like this too. And then you can even get into playing local underground music.
Yeah.
It's not controlled by labels and by, corporate minds. So I like that, So, but it takes time to build something like this to where you really want it to be, and it takes a lot of time and effort to focus on it.
Yeah.
I'm one man, so it's just nice to have the platform available and to just build off it. So it may take a year, it may take 3 years to really take it to where it needs to be.
I mean, fortunately, I think for you, you have a lot of people in your wheelhouse, and a lot of support. So we hope that obviously, especially for local music or for those that are having a hard time maybe getting it all out there, to use that as a way to help bring their music to our ears. But is that how you got the Rock Hop name? Like, where did that come from? I'm looking at it now
So
and
rock hop to me, I mean, in the 90s or early 2000s, it was more or less called rap rock. So, and all the new, and it was also new metal, was the actual genre, but they called it rap rock, and I felt like my music was a lot different because I came up as a rapper and turned into a band.
yes.
But I didn't want to change. I didn't want to change who I was or the messages that I wanted to put out. So I came up with my own genre, which, it's something that's been going on, like I said, with the fused music. So I wanted rock hop because we have a rock sound, but I'm rapping hip hop music.
Yeah.
That's
That's
really
who-
the definition of it. So
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the guys that came out before me, the Limp Bizkits and the Linkin Parks, I feel like they formed as a band. They formed as a rock sound. I didn't form that way. So
Yeah.
that was the difference with me. And I was like a little more into the culture than they were, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I just felt like, and of course, I would do anything to market my music for exactly what it is versus where do you
Trying to
fall.
fit it into a
Yeah, yeah.
particular
Because
genre.
I don't. I mean, you could call us new metal, but
Yeah.
you know,
No.
yeah. So I mean, I grew up listening to all music. I was into Rage Against the Machine and Pantera. I mean, I was listening to metal music,
Yeah.
but I was also into I was into everything. So with that background, I kind of knew, where I would take this rock hop.
Yeah.
So
That's one of the album. It's
well, we officially put out one album. It's called Through the Flesh.
okay.
In 2019, and then COVID hit, and kind of it was kind of a dagger in our promotion. So we really didn't do what we planned to do with that album. But Rock Hop, I think we put out like a mixtape. One of the first shows I ever played with a band. I had a promoter call me from Traverse City, Doug Street, and there was a nightclub venue up there, national venue called Streeters,
Oh,
and it was probably one of the state's most prestigious venues. I mean, it was beautiful. It was it was big.
I don't think I've been there.
Yeah, and it was one of the main stops for anybody that came through Michigan. But he called me one day and he says, "Hey man, bring your drummer up," because I was kind of working with Stevie Lee was actually my drummer.
Oh, okay.
So, which I mean, he was a phenomenal singer.
Yeah.
I knew his whole background, but he just wanted to drum, and I was rapping and he was drumming. So we were kind of doing some shows here and there, just having fun. And he's like, "Bring your drummer up and open for this band called Rehab," and I didn't know who Rehab was. I knew, and then of course when he, we kind of looked them up, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, the Bartender song, like I remember them." And I didn't know that they were similar to us. I'm just thinking this is like a southern rock,
Yeah.
a little bit of country-ish sound to them. So I'm thinking, I don't know why he wants us on the show, but we'll go up there and do it. And
Right.
as as I started to brainstorm the show, I'm thinking, well, why don't we grab a guitarist too? And so I handpicked a band. And I remember the first time I remember it clear as day. The first time we rehearsed, in the back of my mind, I mean, I got goosebumps just going down my whole body during this rehearsal, and I'm just thinking, I will never perform again without a band. Like, this is amazing. To hear all these instruments to the music that I wrote was
Yeah.
incredible, because I didn't write it with a band.
Yeah.
And a lot of the music that I used wasn't music that I was ever playing, because it was all this personal, deep, guitar-driven, piano-driven. They just weren't songs that I was presenting at that time. It was more personal music.
Right.
So these are all songs. A lot of the songs that we have put out are songs that I've had in my vault for years. They were just personal to me.
Yeah.
I didn't even show anybody a
So
lot of
we
these
have to
songs.
thank Streeters up there for
Yeah.
putting your band together.
But we ended up doing the show with them, and then they said, I remember Demon Jones. He's a huge artist now. He's actually going to be at the Dow with Brantley Gilbert and
Oh.
Struggle Jennings. But he was there. He was in the band Rehab at the time, and he pulled me aside in the VIP, and he's like, "Man, y'all." He's from down, from Georgia. He's like, "Man, y'all are dope, man." He's like, "Y'all should come on tour with us." And I'm just like, "What?" I'm thinking, we just did this show for fun, and now you're asking us to go on this national tour. Like we're not
Just
even
like that.
we don't even have any product. Like
Right.
so literally in 2 weeks, I put together a bunch of songs, put this mixtape together. I called it, and it was called Rock Hop.
Okay.
So that's where we really launched that,
Okay.
and we ended up going on a national tour with Rehab. I mean,
It's
and
insane.
yeah, we went on 3 months. I mean, we hit like the last leg of the tour, but it was still. I mean, we went from not being a band to doing a show, and then literally going
Yeah.
on a national tour. So that's how we originally formed.
I mean, and really, it's so crazy. And I've heard other musicians talk about, man, I've been doing this for 20 years. And then it was literally one day
Yeah.
somewhere doing a stupid one person show, whatever, that somebody said, you, I want you for, and then now they're, going places or whatever. And
Yeah.
when you hear some of these stories,
Yeah,
and
it's
I'm
one.
like,
It could
it's
be
just,
one song. It could be one person that sees you. You're in the right place at the right time.
yeah,
But I mean, I think most musicians are just happy they're doing it
yeah,
because, I mean, it depends. Everyone has different motives and different reasons and, different stories on why they're doing music. But for me personally, I got into mute. I mean, I was always a DJ. So when I started writing my own music, it was because of what I was going through. Like it was an outlet for me,
yeah.
truly. And I wasn't making the music to show other people. I was making it for me. This was like my journal.
Your journal.
And I started late. Like I started in my 20s writing music. Like before that, I wouldn't even consider myself a writer. So, and then I started turning it into raps because it was a form of art and it was, I mean, it literally saved my life. I mean, I can recall so many times where I would handle a situation with going into the lab and writing music.
Right.
And I became addicted to it. It was just like it was my outlet. It was
Yeah.
my fix.
And thank goodness, to be honest with you. I mean, nowadays, you know, a lot of us handle situations, bad things or whatever it is.
Impulse
And
decisions.
yeah,
Yeah.
and just make wrong choices. And I think writing or playing an instrument is a great way to get it out.
Oh, because music it grabs your emotions
Yeah.
one way or another. I like music for me. I love to hear people that make afflicted music. I want to be able to feel their pain in their music because they're ultimately they're releasing it.
Yeah.
And that's what it did for me. And like one of my favorite bands is Stain.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
and,
Stevens, one of Stevens.
yeah.
Yeah, I love
So
Stephen
it's
Lewis.
it's like I tell people that have never heard of Redburn, I'm like, we're a hip hop Stain. Like
Yeah.
we're because that's a lot of the music that really sticks out are painful songs.
Yeah.
And they're real. And they really happened. And that right there is very important to me because it's like a lot of rappers these days. Now we're just talking about hip hop, and I'm sure this happens in other genres as well. But when I hear an artist or a band, I look at them and I go, "Are they real? Do I believe that they are what they're saying they are?"
Right.
And that's what drives me to them personally.
Yep.
I'm not saying that's what everyone should process music that way, but that's just the way I process music.
Yeah. I know, like, when we decided to start this podcast, Steven and I, we would sit on the couch or we're driving in the car and I'm playing all the songs that, like, listen to this song, like, and why I love this song. And then he'd do the same thing. And we were doing this not thinking about, a podcast, but we were doing this almost every day.
Mm-hmm.
And with him writing music and being a musician himself, somehow it just led to doing this podcast and realizing that music is so moving. You could have your story and you put it out, and regardless of how somebody else interprets it, they can make it how they want and it moves them.
Oh, absolutely.
And
I mean, we do that personally. Like I have one artist that I've really related to was Eminem, and not because he's white or
Right.
because he's a phenomenal rapper. It's because of his story.
Yeah.
His story was he had all these issues with his ex-wife, and he put it in his music, and it matched. I mean, I'll say it, like, my ex-wife made his ex-wife look like a saint, but his music really hit me. And that's the thing, like, when we're out doing shows, and I know, like, I mean, I don't know, 2014, that's 10 years ago. So, I was in my 30s when this, so I was like, okay, something's got to make sense here, or else
Right.
I'm not going to pursue this. Like, I'm getting older. Like,
Right.
so when I seen people coming to the merch booth and buying merch like I've never seen before, I'm thinking, okay,
Well, you got
something's
some
here.
cool merch.
Something's here, though. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, there's
Yeah.
there's something here.
Yeah.
And I truly believe it's the music, that it's the messages, it's the pain, it's the people are relating to this music.
On your, well, is there any particular song that you have right now, whether it's one you've put out or one that you've written that maybe you're working on or maybe you're not, that really, really gets you? And what's that story for
What do
you?
you mean by gets me?
Like,
Like
gets you in the
that?
feels, like,
Oh, I mean,
like,
they all really do, a lot of the personal ones, but there's a couple songs, like, there's a song called Empty Child. And a lot of people that don't know me may think that, like, I grew up without a mother and father, which was not the case.
no,
I grew
right,
up with my mother and my father, and they're still both alive. And I mean, they went through divorce at a certain time, but I was in college, so I didn't go through that personally. But I wrote that song based on what do I think my daughters felt losing their mother.
yeah,
And so I based each verse off, male, female. And, because as a band and as a brand, you have to have your business together too. And if I was functioning as my own label, then the label is this little voice in my head going, well, make sure you're doing this and make sure you're doing that and make sure
right.
we're hitting these people. So without me being
He's a
something,
perfectionist,
without me being something that I'm not,
right?
I'm gonna try to cover those bases.
Yeah,
Let's talk about a female. Let's talk about a male. Let's cover the bases.
because
But
your girls were young, right, when your ex-wife passed away.
yeah, they were. Well, they were 9 and 7.
So
So,
they
but
remember.
they remember. They weren't really old enough to really. I mean, obviously,
Comprehend it, like,
when you're under 10, you're kind
yeah,
of, you don't really understand it, but
right,
you accept it and you realize it. But I actually took custody of them 5 years before that, so they were 5 and 3 when I took them, and then they didn't really see their mom a whole lot in those 5 years. She was, you know, living kind of a street life. So it wasn't like taking my daughter's, or, her death wasn't like a cliff.
right, right,
It
right.
was, you know,
Thank goodness, right?
yeah. So yeah, and exactly, I was pleased that it happened that way and not, taking them out of her arms, and then,
Right.
because that's, I mean, it's tragic no matter what, but it would have been more tragic
Oh, for
that
sure.
way. So I kind of lost myself.
We were talking about empty child and
Oh, so yeah, Empty Child was just because I had to explain to them when they were 5 and 3 on where I had to answer the question daily, where's mom?
right,
Where's mommy? So, and that's something that I never had to experience.
right,
So it was kind of my way of expressing my pain from having to experience that. Even though I can't relate to that personally,
right.
but it's the closest thing that I had to relate to.
Yeah. I'm sure you could probably, as they got a little bit older, maybe sense it too. I mean, it's hard to obviously comprehend it at 9, or
Yeah.
10. Your brain isn't whatever. Oh, they're just not there, but as your teenage years start coming around, you really start as a female not having that mom, that female around.
Oh
I,
yeah.
you know,
You start to feel things. You start to wonder. You start to ask. That I mean, And I knew all that was coming, and all I could do was be brutally honest with them
Yeah.
because, you know, alcoholism can be genetic. It can be, so I wanted them to learn at an early age, like, you could have this in you, you know,
Yeah.
and I wanted them to be independent. I wanted them to, so, you know, I mean, I don't remember what age it was when I really started telling them the truth on what happened. I remember I got robbed before, armed robbed in my home,
Oh,
and they
jeez.
weren't there. And they were robbing my neighbor, and they ended up escalating into my
Oh,
house,
wow.
and I dove through a window, and I remember telling them, you know, a tree hit the window, you know,
Right.
but they were at that age where, you know, you can pretty much fabricate
Yeah.
a
Well, you don't
story, but
want to scare them.
right, but it got to a point where, you know, I just had to start telling them the truth.
Yeah.
I felt it was important for them to, for their base, you
Yeah.
know. But you know, Empty Child was, I mean, that I say that song because I would say 80 to 90% of the time I cry during that song, but nobody knows that because I sweat so much.
Right.
But that's why I love performing, because people don't understand this, but crying is one of the releases from your soul, and I just can't cry. Like, I feel like
You're going
my
to
skin
cry.
is so thick enough to where it's hard for me just to. I wish I could, if I'm stressed out, just go in a corner and cry, and then, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But it
No.
doesn't happen that way. So
No.
music brings that out of
Yeah.
me, though, and it's
Yeah.
something that happened so long ago, to where I can sit here and talk about it all day, and I will
Yeah.
not get emotional about it. But put me on stage and let me, you know, perform this song, and it every time it pulls it out. It's
Yeah.
amazing how that
I
works.
think it's funny. Even yesterday, I was driving to go babysit, and on my all the way to Flushing, so 40-minute drive, I cried the whole entire way, and it was one song. Just before I hit 675, I was like one song that then led to another, and it was all in my YouTube, and it just went one after the, and I literally was sobbing. It was so hard to drive, but that's one of those things too. Like,
Well,
you
you're
know,
also a female,
I am,
and you
but
have a
I
lot. And
mean,
I only say this because hormones. I mean, you have females. I mean, and I know this from being a mom.
right?
Like, I have nothing but daughters in my house,
Yeah, me
and
too.
that
It's terrible.
the frequency
I mean,
that
not
women are
terrible, but
on, I mean, it's a different frequency than us
yeah.
men. So it's like, but
I think too, like
I lived
men
in
are
their
raised
frequency.
different, and I think it's in your DNA, like to be strong and
Oh,
don't cry,
absolutely.
you know, like it's in
But
your
if you want to get
DNA.
really technical, it's because, and the only reason I know this is because of the brain tumor that I had. It was a
Yes.
tumor on my pituitary gland, and men have testosterone. Women have testosterone too.
Yeah.
We both have testosterone and estrogen, but there's certain levels that they are at. Men have a higher level, and that's why you see with the transgender thing that's going on now, that where women can turn into men because they're changing their hormone levels. And because when I had that tumor, it was taking all my testosterone, and my estrogen was going up high. Because anytime your testosterone goes down, your estrogen goes up. So I was turning into a female, crying all like emotional, and I didn't know what the hell was wrong
Like
with me. You know?
why? Yeah.
Can we swear on here or no? Are we
We're on
PG?
YouTube.
Okay, I'm not that I want to, in
We could
case it
do
slips.
bleeps and blurbs.
Yeah, yeah. So it gets very interesting with the hormones, though,
Yeah.
because it leads into music and why, you know, like, why are we so connected? Why are human beings so connected to music? You know, why are we connected to patterns and
Yeah.
but that's what music
I
is.
mean, I used to I mean, things for me personally have changed over the years as far as my thoughts on music or whatever, but I did find it really interesting and and I wish I maybe I shouldn't say it, but I'm going to go down this road real quick. But the radio frequency, used to be at a certain level, and then they changed it. And if you look into why they changed it, it's more of like a control thing. But frequencies are a huge thing.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it is literally what level you
you c-
listen to things on. It's like when we were sitting here getting ready for an interview last week, the bass was so strong that, you feel it in your chest. Now, had there been the singing right along with that at that moment, it probably would have made you cry.
yeah.
It was that frequency of what that was. But I
Yeah, I mean, I
mean,
think life is, and we have energy all around us.
yeah. I
I mean,
mean, your energy.
you can believe whatever you want to believe,
Yeah.
but you can't deny physics. And I mean, there's energy all around us, and
Yeah.
and there's frequencies. And I think, for instance, someone that's very negative, they're on a different frequency than someone that's very
Absolutely.
positive, and it gets, the law of attraction, all that leads into all that. It's very
Yeah.
interesting, but I mean, I live my life by it.
Like I can tell, even like because I work here at the Vault and I bartend, and it's so funny. It doesn't happen a lot, but every once in a while, I'll see somebody. I'll catch them in my eye. That it's a draw, that something is going on, and it's an energy, and I could feel it. I had some last week, and I had two ladies, and I could feel like, oh man, like something. There's something here. I
Well,
don't
not
know
only
what it
you can
is,
not only
but
feel it, you can see it, because
Yeah.
like, being a promoter for this long, being in bars and nightclubs. I mean, I've never worked a real job. I think I did in college. I was like a server, and I worked at like Airborne Express or something, but I've never worked a 9 to 5 other than that.
Yeah.
And I've been in this business every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, every week, every year. So I think when you work in this industry, you're able, like when I go into a bar, number one, my back's got to be to a wall.
Yeah.
And I'm watching everything. I mean, when I get out of a bar, I'm like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Because
It
I'm
drains.
naturally, but back to your point, like I see things, and I mean, I can read lips. But usually when someone's saying something, they're staring at you out of the corner of their eye, and they're
Yeah.
talking to someone else, and then they give you that second look. And so it's a lot of physicality that's
Yeah.
going on as well. Like you can see,
Well, yeah, body
you
language.
can see the way
and-
that their emotions are. They're wearing it on their face.
Yeah.
And
I am
that's
so
what to look
guilty.
for. Obviously a good security team is going to look for that and sense that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's interesting how that all works, because I can't go places without, if I go anywhere with someone, they got to slap me in the head a couple times, because I'm just sitting there, just people watching and feeling it out, and watching how people are levitating to the music, or, you know what I mean? It's like a good time to me is to go into a nightclub sober and just watch. Everybody.
Yeah. I love that too. When I'm here, I get to watch other people having fun, but it's not just watching people having fun. It's how they're having fun. What is it? Like you'll have people sitting down, and then all of a sudden a song come on, and then everybody comes up. So what is it about the song?
Yeah, and as a DJ, that is what makes a good DJ.
Yeah.
So I learned how to focus on those things early in my career, because it's like, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to play music for the people, and I got to read them. And I work in the wedding industry full time.
I was just
now.
gonna say.
The wedding industry.
I mean, you got the DJ, but then you're like doing the weddings.
Yeah,
mean,
so
you
I
gotta
think
know.
once I graduated from doing the nightclubs, number one, financially, it made more sense to get into the wedding industry, but it's also something that I also enjoyed, because at the end of a night at a bar, it's not always a happy ending.
Right, right.
It's usually never a happy ending.
Right.
So again, being on different frequencies,
Yep.
weddings, it's like you walk away from a wedding, number one, with good money.
Yeah.
Number two, it's a happy ending.
Yeah.
There's a lot of positive things that go on. There's more, I mean, 90% of the time there's
Can't
never.
think of any time I've ever been to a wedding and everybody was pissed off,
Yeah,
or having a
exactly.
horrible
I
time.
mean, you have your issues because there's alcohol involved, and obviously there's family turmoil that sometimes surfaces, but
Yeah.
for the most part, and it's always different people. You
Yeah.
know, when you're DJing in the same bar or nightclub, it's you tend to see the same people over and over
Yes.
again, and it becomes tedious.
Yeah.
So I love the wedding industry. I'm really good at it, and it's financially secure, and I travel a lot. So I'll do that as long as I can because it to me it's not even work. You
Right.
know.
You just get to go have fun.
Yeah, yeah. But it does suck up a lot of my Fridays and Saturdays when I could have the band doing this festival, and so it can be conflicting when it comes to that.
Do you have any festivals lined up?
Locally, we're doing. It was originally the Nelly concert,
Okay.
and then he actually had to cancel all his dates because he was going on tour with Janet Jackson. And I
Hey.
understand that completely, but there was some turmoil
Right.
there between promoters and venues. But I get it. You know, you're going from maybe 8 to 10,000 crowds to 30,000
Oh,
crowds, and
for
it's
sure.
Janet Jackson. I
It's
mean,
Jen Jackson.
closest you're ever going to get to Michael
Oh,
Jackson.
right.
So I get it. But anyway, Flo Rida has took his place, so we'll be doing that show. Ken Shelton is bringing that show, Bay City Music Festival, Friday, June 21st, at Vets Park. So
Okay.
that'll be a big show. It'll be one of our bigger shows. I mean, I'm guessing, you know, 5,000 people or more. It's hard to say, but that'll be a big show. But I generally don't. I mean, we've had a lot of offers to be on festivals. There's festivals nationwide, but the thing is with the festival business is you start off playing during the day. You
Right.
know, you're opening the festival,
Right.
and then the next year they move you up a couple of slots,
Yeah.
and with me being in the music or in the wedding industry, I don't have that dedication, and I'm not out there trying to get. I'm not out there trying to be the biggest band or trying to get a record deal.
Right.
I'm just displaying my music and I'm doing it for me.
Right.
I'm not trying to.
You're not trying to make
Yeah,
millions
I
of
mean,
dollars and
I feel like I've already kind of me personally, I feel like I've experienced like the celebrity life, doing the Girls Gone Wild, it doesn't get more rock star than that because you're in this bus, you're rolling around with cameras everywhere you go, you have everyone's attention.
everyone's
Yeah, it's like honestly, the camera guys, they were literally living the rock star life. Like they have girls around them constantly. They were rock stars.
yeah.
There's actually an article out about it, and I wasn't a camera guy. I was just producing music for them,
Yeah.
and I was a promoter, so I would book the bus in different cities and fly out to the city, and I was never traveling on the bus. I have traveled on the bus a few times because different situations, breakdowns or whatever,
Yeah.
but I did not function on the bus. And there's actually a lot of controversy there because my name got trashed because I was affiliated with Girls Gone Wild. I was never an employee of the company. I worked with them. So it was kind of like my business worked with their business. They
Right.
leased my music. I did produce music. I was already producing music that was based around that because when I first started rapping, I was a party DJ. I was a college party DJ,
Yeah.
and then I moved into the hip hop scene. But a lot of the music, I was like a white Nelly when I started making my own music. So when I connected with Girls Gone Wild, it was actually here in Saginaw at the pub. Was the first show I ever did. 2009, January. I was like Wednesday, January 21st. I remember it clear as day because it was such a monumental date for me that changed my whole entire career because I did the show. It was the first time that I ever made, a couple $1,000s that I didn't have to spend on bills. It was like,
Right.
okay, this is what they talk about when they say profit. Because
Yeah.
I always lived check to check,
Yeah.
And when I got a taste of that money, and it was like, I just did a show. Like I brought this bus here. There's no girls in the bus.
Yeah.
everybody thinks there's girls in the bus, but there was never girls in the bus. They'd be in jail within 2 weeks. So it's a bunch of camera guys in a bus, a bus driver, and a manager. And we bring this bus here that has girls, all over the bus. And obviously I was younger at the time,
Yeah.
so I was into it. And
Yeah.
and and they come in with their cameras, and it's of course I brought girls in
Well, right.
that would wear the tank tops, but to me I was doing the same. It was the same thing. I was DJing to a bunch of college girls
Yeah.
a year ago, and they're flash, but that's their decision to flash, and that's their decision to go get on the bus,
Right.
and it's their decision to sign the paperwork to be on the camera.
But and what's great about you though is like, what's gonna work, what's gonna sell.
Oh yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
As a
It's like-
promoter, yeah, that's always been. I mean, I remember laying in bed for days, just nonstop thinking of what's. I mean, I still do that.
Yeah.
Like new ideas, but to bring the idea to life, to make the phone call, because I had a song called "Go Wild," and it was blowing up in the Flint clubs because that's where I was DJing.
Yeah.
And I didn't even tell people it was me. I just play it, and I never told anyone it was me.
Yeah.
And they'd come up and be like, "Hey," and then I used to do this thong contest where girls would dance and they'd show their thong off.
Oh yeah.
Not a big deal.
Thong, 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 thong.
And it blew up, and the nightclub blew up off it. People were coming from all over the state, and I always used the song "Go Wild," the first 30 seconds of it. So people would come up and be like, "Hey, can you play that Go Wild song?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, boom." So it was in rotation. So I was like, how do I get this song to take it to the next level?
Yeah.
So I thought the wildest thing that I can think of is Steve-O from Jackass.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
At the time. And I was like, he's too expensive. I called his agent and everything. And then I'm thinking, what's the Girls Gone Wild? So I go to the website, call the phone number, get on the horn, and I'm like, I got this song I want to incorporate with you guys. He's like, well, you want to book a show? And I'm thinking, I'm a promoter. I didn't know you guys do show. I didn't know much
Right.
about it. And he's like, yeah, we'll bring, have the bus come out and da-da-da. And we started going through pricing, and the price was cheap for a weekday. And I'm thinking, in my mind, I've always looked at weekdays as a promoter because there's no competition.
Right.
I don't have to compete with every liquor license on Friday and Saturday.
Right.
So I ended up booking it on a Wednesday. And I still didn't know a whole lot about it until the show went on. And, the Saginaw News printed up an article that day. I think MLive was a thing in
Oh, yeah.
2009 still. And
It still is,
and,
but not
yeah,
like
and,
it
and
was.
so it
Yeah.
blew up. And I'm just thinking, I don't care if it's good or bad. It's promotion. Like, this is
Right.
crazy. Like, people are going nuts. The bus pulls in at noon, parks it on Hamilton Street, and all of a sudden cars are coming by, pictures, people are getting out of their car. It
Oh,
caused
yeah.
a frenzy. And I just sat there and just sucked it all in. Like, this is
They're probably thinking the bus is loaded with a bunch of half-naked girls.
it was an illusion. What's funny is Jason Jewell was with me that day.
Oh.
And he ended up going on the tour. I mean, I toured for years after that with that bus, but 2 buses actually. But I remember that day I gave the manager, because I performed that night, and the manager came up. He's like, man, you got some good ass music. He's like, and I said, yeah, this is the song this is the whole reason I booked you guys, because I want to
Right.
give you this song. And he's like, give me all your music. So then I ended up emailing the music over. And I remember the manager's like, we're going to get some spins. We're going to get you some spins. And I didn't know what that
Well,
meant.
yeah, I was just gonna say what's
and,
that?
and what he meant was, I'm going to get you I'm going to get your music some spins through our network, and we're going to get you some royalty money. And I was so not savvy to that when he was saying that.
Yeah.
So then it was probably a year later, I went and checked my mail, and there was a letter or whatever, and it had my name on it, and there was a check. I could tell it was a check by
Yeah.
the way it looked. And I kind of threw it on my table, and then I came back later that day cleaning my house, and I was going through and I was throwing stuff away, and I almost threw it away, and I opened it, And I'm looking at it, and it was a $17,000 check. And I'm like, this has got to be fake, like Publishing
Right.
Clearinghouse. We come from the era of
Oh
Publishing Clearinghouse.
yeah.
So I'm reading down further, and I notice, and all of a sudden goosebumps start to arise, and I'm getting goosebumps right now just saying it. And then I started seeing song names and MTV, the Game Show Network, and figures. Now I'm realizing what it is and what he meant by spins. So then
Oh.
the first thing I did was I opened a new bank account
Yeah.
because I still wasn't in belief of this.
Oh right.
Deposited the check, and when it cleared, it became real. And then I'm
Yeah.
just thinking, wow, like I just got my first royalty check. And then I started embracing that. Now I'm calling Girls Gone Wild, and I'm like, listen, I'm flying out next month. I'm going to sit down and give you guys exactly what you want.
Yeah.
So at that point, it went from songs to just making like just the cores, because they're only using 20 seconds here, 30
Right.
seconds there. So I started producing music based around the brand, but I was just I didn't have to record verses. I was just recording little jingles.
Right.
Was what they're called. So then I got into the royalty business, and then I started making music for. I had a couple songs land on the Kardashian show.
See, I
So
didn't
then,
know that.
so there's people out there. Their titles are called music supervisors. So every
seen
show, every movie, whether it be Netflix or a movie out at the movie theater, they have music supervisors, and they're in control of the soundtracks of these movies. So they're the ones that place the music within the episode or the movie. So I'm learning all this at the time, and I'm like, I want to know every music supervisor there is. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what do you need? What do you?
Right.
So every musician that has made it, or artist that
Yeah.
have got royalty checks, probably are in the same boat.
Right.
So now, okay, I got this money in the bank, but I'm not like spending it. I want to embrace this and let's grow it. Like,
Which I think you just gave people a hint, like,
oh yeah.
you know what I mean? Which, if you watch the full did you end up watching the whole
I did,
thing yet?
I did.
It's one of the things that I really love most about you is that, as subtly as that just was, to give the hint, music supervisor, you know what I mean? When you're looking at stuff in your perspective, but you're so open and you give constructive criticism, and you give it in such a way too, like, that you want to be helpful. And I know, like, earlier when we were first talking about how, like, this day and age, or maybe it's just Saginaw, like, people just feel like they're in competition with
Oh yeah.
with you no matter what.
I think
But you
I
just
think the reason that is because the industry isn't in this area.
Yeah.
For instance, the music industry currently is in Atlanta, Nashville. It'll always be in New York and LA, but we're not used to success in music in this area. Like, we have certain people that have been successful.
Yeah.
Verve Pipe. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, Stevie Wonder's from Saginaw, Madonna from Bay City, but we don't experience that all the
Right.
time like Detroit does, like
Right.
bigger cities, Nashville, they're everywhere. It's nothing.
Oh, yeah.
It's part of the culture there. And
Right.
our culture is not used to that. I mean, our culture is used to sports, people, but those people leave, when
Right.
they blow up, they leave.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the reason why people aren't used to that. So, and I've experienced it on a smaller level, because everything is perception.
Yeah.
People look at you like I stay so private with my life because I have my daughters that people may think that I am something completely different than I am, whether it's good or bad.
Right.
But it's their perception.
Right.
And they're willing to want to know has always been my rise.
Right.
So you don't just spill the beans all the time.
Right.
You give your listeners and your fans a little bit at a time. It's like you don't want to give them everything at once.
Oh, right.
So But as far as helping people, I think that I just believe in setting the tone. Like I've had a few people help me throughout my career, but I've never had anybody show me anything.
Right.
I've had to dig and learn on my own, trial and error. And I just don't believe in competition.
Right.
I
Like you
don't,
have your own podcast. Why would you be on ours?
yeah,
But
I
you know what
don't,
I mean? Like we're
but,
not in competition,
but
but
if your
people would.
podcast blew up tomorrow and you became national, I would be happy for you. You know what I mean? Like I'm not doing this for that. You
No,
know,
I
again,
know.
everything I do is for my own expression. And if something happens, something happens. But
Right.
I try to like, when other people around me are successful, I mean, no one is you. We have our own
Right.
fingerprints. Like we can be in the same genre. We could be making the same music. A lot of people like to compare like Redburn and Mike Spitz in Saginaw. But like I grew up with Mike Spitz.
Yeah.
Like we're friends. Like people
Yeah.
don't understand that. Like yeah, we make similar music, but
Yeah.
I can remember telling Mike like go personal. I
Yeah.
can remember telling Astray, like I worked with Astray. I was his DJ for 6 years. I can remember sitting him down like, dude, go personal. Like
Yeah.
you were adopted. Like tell the story.
Yeah.
You know, like that's what people want to hear.
Yeah.
But a lot of people like to believe that competition is something mental.
Yeah.
There is no physical, talking about energy, there's no physical competition.
Right.
Like this is all a mental game.
Yeah.
And people play it all the time.
Like I think it's really funny because I don't have a competitive bone. Well, I guess when I'm playing blackjack,
I'm very competitive.
but I'm not competitive really at all. I mean, I'm for myself. I set a goal. You know what I mean, and I do what I can to get to reach that goal. And then sometimes I reach that goal, and I'm like, gotta go a little bit further, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm in competition with myself,
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
in competition with anybody
Well, it's kind of like being on a
else.
sports team. Like we're on the same team, and the competition is good for you
Yeah,
because it's friendly competition. It's
right.
like teammates.
Yeah,
So the same with the music. Like when I do a show, I love when an opener is goes up there and just lights it up.
Yeah.
Like that's going to take me to the next level.
yeah,
That's constructive
yeah.
like competition.
I do find here, you know, there's bands that aren't in competition with each other, but they think that they are. That it's okay to go on Facebook or whatever and say something negative.
But that's their
and,
motive.
And yeah, and
Everybody
I don't,
has a different motive.
I know, and I really I don't understand it. You know, I think
It's rookie mentality.
yeah, I find that it's, I mean, it just shows who you are.
We've
I mean,
experienced us being on national shows and the artist at the last minute will be like, "Yeah, we don't want them on the show."
yeah,
Like they don't. The agent will just say, "Yeah, we're good." You know, they won't sit there and just explain why, but it's
Right.
like they listen to our music, or you know, there's been a few times where we were on the show, the venue wanted us on the show, promoter on the show, and then the agent would come back and all of a sudden we're not on the show. But I get it. It's business.
yeah,
I mean, when you're in the industry and you're touring and you're making money and there's money invested, it's more business than anything to
Right.
them, to the people
Yeah.
to the machine. The
Right.
machine is 100% business. So I get it, but I just try to stay out of those situations. You know, there's been times where we opened for nationals where we blew them off the stage, and
Yeah.
they knew we did. I mean, our merch booth is on fire.
Right.
You know, we're killing it. We
Yeah.
got a line out the door on our merch booth, and
Yeah.
the national. But you know, there are some that are like, man, just like Demon Jones, man, y'all are dope, man. So it's you're gonna run into so many different personalities
yeah,
and so many different people with different motives.
Yeah.
It becomes a very shisty business. You know, the machine itself can be crooked and evil and everything else that goes with it. That's
yeah. I feel like, you know, as we're having that type of discussion, and here we are new in our podcast, and you know, I think to myself that knowing that there's a lot of haters, and you know, I will beat myself up more than anybody ever could. You know, so for me, you know, would it bother me if I heard, you know, something negative about me, or or me and Steven, or something negative about the podcast. Yeah, I mean, it would probably bother me, but the way you put things out is something that I love about you, is how you're so constructive. You want,
Are
do
you
you
a
want to
fan? Are you a fan of
see?
Cat Williams? Do you know who Cat Williams is?
No.
He's a comedian. He knows him.
Do I know who that
So
is? Oh, he says I do.
yeah, yeah. I mean, he's in controversy right now because he he let out some secrets from Hollywood and about a lot of other comedians. But I bring up Cat Williams because he made it funny, but he was being real. When you're successful at anything, part of the equation of success is to have people that are envious
Yes.
and that start to hate on you. So when you start to see people talking down about you or your relationship, number one, it's like, okay, we're a power couple because they're wasting their
Right.
time. You know, to me, time is
Yeah, like
too
why you
valuable for me to sit here and to talk about somebody,
right.
to judge somebody. I just my time is too valuable to do that.
Right. Like I wouldn't sit here and ever worry about what somebody else is doing just because I
But
dislike it, but not
that's
to put
the
it out there and give them the energy. You know what I
exactly,
mean?
yeah. But that is the sign of success because Cat
Yeah.
Williams said, you know, he said like, if you got 14 haters, you better have at least 18 by the end of the summer. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Like it's because it's true,
Yeah.
you know? And I know, I mean, people, friends, you know, acquaintances, they'll send me stuff and be like, I mean, I'm pretty aggressive when someone says something about me local,
Yeah.
especially if it's on social media.
Yeah.
If they say my name or tag me, like now you're slandering me.
You're right, right.
Like you're actually breaking the law. I will literally inbox them and say, you know, I'll take care of it the good old fashioned way.
Right.
But when people just chatter and, you know, when you hit a certain level of success, it's coming. You know it's coming, and
Yeah.
it's going to keep coming.
Yeah.
So it's like you just got to be able to brush it off.
Yeah.
Like you have to, or else it'll eat you alive.
Right.
And
Like
it could be with, you know, I worked for Girls Gone Wild, so I was having sex with the entire world. When never, and this is a true story, never hooked up with one girl, not one, on the entire tour, ever. By the time the end of the night came, I was so dead
yeah.
mentally, and I still had to go into, you know, the back office and do the politics
Oh, yeah.
with the owner of the venue, and then get paid, then deal with Girls Gone Wild, like money exchange at the end of the night.
Yeah.
So it was like, by that time, I didn't have energy to even want to know
Yeah.
any.
I don't even know your name. I just
Yeah,
go,
but again, it's all perception. It's like this guy's a douchebag. He's working for Girls Gone Wild. He's banging every other girl. You know, it's like you guys only see my face and what I wear,
Right.
and you don't know anything. You don't
Right.
know what's going on behind the scene. But the guy who's judging me is like, well, if I was in that position, I'd be rocking the boat every night.
Right.
You know, but that wasn't the case.
No.
I had two girls at home. You know,
Yeah.
and I was their solo parent. So
Right.
I was about the money. I was about the success.
You got to pay the bills.
I was about the
and
longevity.
Raise your girls.
Yeah.
And yeah.
But again, people are so impatient in the day we're living now that their first perception becomes the reality when that's just not the case.
Right.
And
Well, I do think in general now, the shift has happened where their perception is reality in everything. You know, it's just like, I mean, in everything.
yeah, the problem now is everybody has a platform. Let's go back to early 90s or even early 2000s.
We didn't have Facebook.
But look how opinions affect society.
Yeah. Well, the
Back-
suicide rate's gone up. Like,
Back when we were kids, the only opinions you ever heard were journalists in magazines, news anchors, news channels, the president. Like you had
Yeah.
to earn and have a position
principal at your
to have
school,
a
your teacher.
platform, to
Yeah.
sit at a podium, to be on a radio station. you had to be a part of that system in order
Right.
to state your opinion.
Right.
Now I can go home, I can go to a restaurant and the burger might be a little dry. I can go home, get on Facebook and just throw the whole entire restaurant under the bus
Right.
because the
And
burger
just
was a
like
little
that.
dry. And so with that being said, it's like imagine being me doing all these things and being successful at some of them, dealing with dealing with the
Yeah.
people, being this womanizer, this sex figure, because the girls gone wild thing,
Right.
and then I try to have a relationship with someone, and then all the other haters and jealous people and girls, and you know, at one point, I was dating a model, and so it's like all that the newer technology gives everybody opinions
Yeah.
and it connects people.
Yeah.
So the small town up north, they can now catch up with an inner city.
Yeah.
Before, like I moved up north when I was 15 and I come into this town and everyone was wearing clothes from like 5 years ago. And I was like, what? It was all gray. And I was just like, what's going on? It was culture shock. I was
Yeah.
like, but they didn't have internet. Like they didn't know better. That's just, I mean, I don't know.
Right.
Maybe Tractor Supply had it on
Where
sale.
now I laugh
I
because like
remember.
mom jeans came back in, and I was like,
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean that.
anyways.
But
But yeah.
it's like everyone was wearing silver tabs and a button-up shirt, and I come swooping in, with the newer stuff,
Right.
Girbauds and used jeans and all. So, but the internet and social media connected people, and now word travels faster. Styles, music, everything travels.
And it's so
Everything's
crazy because there's such pros and cons to it. Like, obviously, we're on social media right now. And hopefully, I'm using it, in a positive way. I mean, it's my hope that with this, it's not going to save your life. This podcast isn't, but maybe in the podcast, those younger folks or even people that are our age who are in bands that want to be successful kind of look at whatever it is that we're talking about or hear the story from someone else or raising some kids or what something comes out of it that might be a quick aha moment and change where versus something negative, you know obviously it seems like it's what everybody wants to hear is all that bashing of so and so and
well, it's
whatever.
people tend to perk their ears. Soap operas were huge back in the day,
Yeah.
and I mean everybody was into soap operas. I
Yeah.
remember my mother was just watching them, and
I used to skip school.
yeah. So now life is a soap opera.
Yeah.
Social media is a soap opera. So the negative things just get attention quicker. People want to see it, and it happens in the industry too. People take their downfall, and then they want to see them come back up. And it's like people like to see that. They like to
Right.
see the fight back. Like,
Yeah.
but you know, negative energy is always going to be out there. There's
Yeah.
always going to be. It's easy. It's
It
the
is easy.
easiest. It's the easiest thing to do is to bash someone to get yourself to feel good.
Well, I think too, it's easier to stay in your sorrow or your sadness or your anger. For some reason, it's just easier to stay there than
Comfort
it
zone.
is to climb out of it
Well,
and force
insecure
yourself to be
insecure
happy when
people
you're.
show that they're insecure
Yeah.
by being negative.
Oh, so
when,
true.
when people like to down other people, whether it be women down on other women or artists, down another artist. Like I hear people talk about Greta Van Fleet all the time in a negative form, and it's just like, listen, yeah, okay, they were a cover band. They used to cover Led Zeppelin,
Yeah.
but look
Why
where they're at
wouldn't
now.
they?
Look where they're at. You
Yeah.
don't just because you were a cover band,
Yeah.
you don't get to where they're at now just off being a cover band.
Right,
It's like,
right.
but people don't want to give them their respect, and
Yeah.
their manager, Michael Barbie, was our manager for a while, but they have opened for our band. Like, and the first time I ever seen them, I think it was at the Review Music Awards one year, and we headlined the Review Music Awards, and they had went on before us, and I don't remember them performing, but Michael Barbie told us the story though, that they were looking up to us, and we were supposed to do another show with them in Bay City at some point, and that's when I started to pay attention to them because I had met Michael Barbie, and he was telling me, he was taking them down to the studio, Kid Rock. So I knew a little bit more about their backstory, but the fact that they're three brothers, they were raised in this crystal ball in
Yeah.
Frankenmuth.
Yeah.
Because that's what I look at Frankenmuth.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like the
It's a
Christmas.
snow
Yeah.
globe.
And their parents raised them on
Yeah.
70s music. It's like that to me is enough for me to love them.
Yeah.
No matter what, but it's like, but then you hear other artists that are like down in them, and it's like, you're jealous of them. You're mad because they made it off their cover style.
Yeah.
But they're making original music.
And I think,
I mean,
and maybe it's something too that, like, as I got older, one of the things is when somebody says, "Oh, well, it really ticks me off this," or "These people are this,"
they're
or
focused on the
whatever,"
negative.
and I will switch it around to what is it inside of you that makes you feel that way, because it's not them, it's you.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything.
But again,
they
again,
don't even know who you are.
people get into the habit of downing other people.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes on
It is
every
a
day.
habit.
It goes on in relationships. It goes on, people want to play the victim. But at the end of the day, it's insecurity.
Yeah.
And we've all became insecure in our lives. But once you learn that you are insecure and you realize it, you'll stop doing it. You'll stop throwing people under the bus and talking bad about people and judging people. Like,
Right.
it's like some of these people that judge people, they have no room to judge anybody. Like,
Right.
let me
Like-
put you under a microscope.
Like-
they don't like that.
You know, and Pink had put it out there in a really good way. Be yourself. I want you to be true to who you are.
That's how.
Just don't be mean.
Yeah. But that's how nobody can defeat you.
Yeah.
When you are yourself,
Yeah.
that you're free. Like,
Right.
you're not. You don't have to live the lie.
Right.
When you're living lies,
You lose
that's hard.
yourself.
That's a full-time job.
Yeah.
It's a full-time job for, back in the day in hip hop, Vanilla Ice, for instance, he had to, live this persona that he
Yeah.
wasn't. I mean, I can't imagine how rough that was for him.
Right.
Know
And
what I mean?
what's
Try
really
to-
funny is because now that he's come back, he's making this little comebacks here and there. But I mean, he's been out there, on some talk shows and whatnot, and you can tell.
Well, he told the real story,
And it is just that what really gets me is that it's another pro and con, because like you really want to be that superstar. You really do.
when he was in the moment until he
Heck yeah.
but then behind closed doors, and then the critics come out.
Yeah.
And it can be a very dangerous territory.
Yeah.
And
I can't imagine what that does for someone psychologically.
well, it screwed
too.
him up. I mean, whether he wants to admit it or not, I've toured with him, but I've never, got in. It'd be a good podcast, but I've heard him speak about it in interviews, and I'm sure it screwed him up for a long time. I mean, he went through an identity crisis. He went to being. I remember he had dreads. He was making different. He went through so many different styles of music until he said, "You know what? They want the pop version."
Yeah. Well,
But-
and it's funny too. I just randomly watch videos, YouTube stuff, and come across things, and a lot of the artists, not just musicians in general, but come across the issue of this big rush of dopamine. they're on the stage and everybody's
Oh
screaming
yeah.
or everybody's yelling out or they're clawing at you. They want to get to touch you or so. There's always this big
Mm.
rush, but then it's an immediate drop afterwards. You know, you rush off, and now you're on the bus and you're the only one.
Yeah.
And it
That's when
really,
reality sinks in.
yeah, and it's a real
When a when
issue.
a when a dancer, stripper,
Yeah,
I don't like to call them strippers, but when a dancer leaves for the night and goes home, I studied this in college actually. I did a college report on it. And when they get home, the attention's gone.
yeah,
And I mean, I dated a couple dancers. One I had dated in my early years, and we were friends, but I always spoke to her about it. And it's, they get so used to the attention
yeah.
constantly, constantly, constantly. And when they go out there in the real world, with their hair in a bun,
Nobody knows
they're
who they
not
are.
getting that. And
Yeah,
some of those dancers are there for that attention.
yeah,
They're not even there for the money as much as they are for that attention.
right.
Now, when you're there for that attention, that's when it becomes dangerous because you're not
Yeah,
going to get it everywhere you go. They don't know
right.
that you're such and such from that club.
And I think that's something inside too. There's something missing or something happened, a trauma that happened maybe when you were younger that, you need that attention or there's something that needs to be
Yeah.
filled, but, you know, I was just watching some artists talk about that rush and how it led to, a drug or alcohol
Oh, yeah.
issue, and they just there was no other coping mechanism. There wasn't the support. I
Well, look
am
at all these
starting to
people in
see.
Hollywood that
Oh yeah,
at a young age, because when you're young, you don't know what dopamine is. You don't
right,
know what the physics are. That
right,
you don't know the biological reason why things happen. So like from Michael Jackson to, I mean, all these young artists, they grow up and they're fucked up.
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
literally,
yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, even
because they skipped their childhood and now they want
for
to be a
real.
child when they're in their 30s, and
Yeah.
it's interesting. I one thing I never did was press my daughters. I never wanted to get them in the studio or anything like that. And just because I realized that, and it's like they have to, if they naturally levitate toward that,
Right.
then cool, but not when they're young. Like I recorded them when they were younger and stuff like that, but
I think that's something I missed. I kind of look back and I wish now, like when my kids were really small. I have twins, and they used to have this like little language, when they were like 2 and 3, and I wish I would have recorded it.
yeah, oh yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
know?
Oh yeah. Like I wish we had digital cameras back then.
Yeah, it's kind of a
Yeah, because
bummer.
I record everything. I record everything.
But how did you go from being a rapper to rock? Like, and what was the process really of mixing that besides, like, I mean, obviously the whole streeter thing,
Yeah, the
putting the
story,
band together, but I mean, like,
the adjustment, or
yeah,
I mean, the first thing I experienced was success. Like people were levitating toward the music, and I learned that it was the more pain-driven, afflicted style music because it hits you in the chest, hits your
right,
heart, and I really started to focus on the difference between a novelty track and a heart throbbing track. And I learned that those were more important to me, and they were more personable, and they defined me on who I was personally.
right,
When a lot of the other music that I was making previous to that were get you jumping around, bouncing,
right.
they're novelties. And not that there's novelty songs that are they'll
Well,
last
right,
forever, but a lot of that novelty music comes and goes.
right.
But it wasn't even that. It was more or less, okay, who is Chris Redburn now? It gave me the opportunity to start answering those questions.
Because you grew And,
Yeah, it was an evolving, and I had people that I worked with in the industry, in the hip hop industry, come to me and be like, listen, this is more you than I've ever experienced. Like this defines you, you know. So a lot of feedback, but as far as I enjoyed it and I felt more fitting, more like I belonged in this lane, just because of all the criticism, you know, that white rappers have gotten over the years from the hip hop culture.
right,
Because, you know, in all different branches of culture, you know, people say, well, Eminem can't be the best rapper alive because he's not from the culture. And, you know, they
people
have,
could argue
yeah,
that.
but you could, it's a debate, but Tiger Woods isn't from the golf culture,
Right,
and he's one of the best golfers.
right,
There's hockey players that, I mean, hockey is not in the African American culture,
right,
but there's some players that can do it better than white people. So
right,
it's like people need to have to learn, like, I don't believe in deleting history, but, you know, I can represent hip hop. I
yeah.
can represent.
I guess when I think of it, I don't think of it as a like a black white thing.
Yeah, I mean, I
Don't.
do because I keep up with journalism and I keep up with different. I love hip hop. Like I love hip hop. I'm not really into a lot of the newer music because it doesn't have as much meaning as some of the older music. I'm more into the lyrical stuff and the metaphors and the poetry of the industry. But
Which I think is what another thing that made Eminem so great. I mean,
I mean, Eminem was in love with the technique of rapping, the the rhyme schemes and
yes.
the, you know, rhyming syllables, and he was in love with the craft of rapping.
Yeah.
That wasn't the reason why I got into it.
No, right.
So there's a differentiation there, but I think people just need to learn, like, when you're good, you're good, and when it comes to music, it's like, are you who you say you are?
Right.
You know, and you know, there's a lot of artists and bands out there that are just not what they perceive they are.
Right. When you I guess when you were a kid growing up, did you have music in your household?
Yeah, I mean, I could listen to whatever I wanted to. I think I had the freedom to do that. I levitated right away to hip hop. Like,
Did your like did your parent were your parents listening to music? Was it something that was always there and then when you became an age, I mean, we
I
had
was the
MTV.
backseat kid that listened to what my mom was listening to because I had to.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wasn't really into Billy Ocean, you know, like
Okay.
I wasn't into Lionel Richie. But now I hear those songs and I'm like, I remember hearing that, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I was into more, and I think because I'm an audio video learner, I was into the beats. I was into, you know, NWA and all the
Oh yeah.
early hip hop, uh, Sir Mix-a-Lot, and
Oh yeah.
so I was into the, you know, something drove me to that style of music. And then you know, I have a brother that's 3 years older. He was into, like, he wasn't really into music when I got into music, but as he got into music, it was more like metal and rock, and I learned a lot of that music from him, from hearing it, because it's his car, he's driving, I'm the
Right.
passenger, he's gonna play what he wants to play. I'm gonna listen to it. But it wasn't my first choice
Right.
when I was in my space. So I always levitated to hip hop, you know, at an early age. But then it's funny because my brother would told me one time, he went to prison and he wrote me a letter. He's like, "You're gonna be a rapper one day," and I was like, "That ain't ever gonna happen." You know what I mean? And then I became a DJ, and I was still like, I never. But when I started rapping,
Yeah.
I thought back like, how the hell did he know that was gonna happen? You know? But when I started DJing, that's when I really, like, started to fall in love with music, because you're a student of it now. Like,
Well,
you're
yeah.
any new song that comes out. And back then, for me, it was CDs. Like, I started spinning vinyl in the beginning, but I didn't fall in love with the craft of DJing. Like, I mean, I could do anything on vinyl on with
I had an
CDs.
issue with CDs. I think we talked about it in one of the other
Yeah.
podcasts. I was not a CD. I have
Well, just imagine eight
four
tracks.
four CDs.
Eight tracks. I mean, that must have been hell.
I know.
Well, cassette tapes. We were cassette tape kids.
Yes. I mean, I think my,
Hold on, let me rewind it.
yeah.
Like
It's
same
like
with same with
recording Casey
VHS.
Kasem, and you could stop it when the commercials came on,
Yeah.
and you waited for your favorite song.
Right.
I think only one time, actually, it wasn't even, it was like spring break 1993, and there was a song that came out while we were in Florida, and I remember going, oh my gosh, well, we didn't have Google, we didn't have internet, so you have to go asking people, what is this song, who sings it? I wish
Yeah.
I could remember. I want to say it was like Informer or something, but it wasn't.
Life moved so much slower back then,
It
and
did.
now we're spoiled.
We went to every gas station from Florida to, I think, Illinois before we found the cassette at a gas station.
Yeah.
And at the gas stations, they had towers of
Right.
cassettes. But yeah, everything.
Yeah,
really-
I used to have to bring in a box on wheels because it was so big.
Yeah.
It was so big, and I had these rows of CDs. And then I had a book. Finally, the book came out
Yeah.
where you could put it in the sleeves. And I had those were my main ones. But if someone
Right.
came with an off request, I'd have to go. And I knew where everything was. It was amazing. And I was ordering CDs in my dog's name from Columbia House and BMG. Remember those?
Oh, yeah. We
You
just
could- you
talked. We
could-
had that on our
You could
podcast
order.
too.
You could order 25 CDs in your cat's name
Yep.
because they were just like, well, they might pay us.
Yeah. I'm like, I probably still owe a nickel or something.
Oh,
stupid.
I ordered hundreds of CDs in so many different names. You could give them fake names.
See, and I never got into the CDs. I was really upset when they came out because I couldn't, in my head, I couldn't picture how I was gonna record the stuff that I like.
Yeah.
You can't do that on CDs.
Right.
And it used to really bother me. And then my friends spending a crap ton of money, going to get.
Well, once computers caught up, you could take songs off the CD. You could upload it
Right,
in
and
your
then your
computer, and then kind of
MP3 or whatever.
make your playlist mixtape.
Yeah.
But at what so
Which
the
you
whole-
couldn't do with
the
the
thing is
cassette.
during the CD era is because it was easy access through like
Yeah.
Columbia House and whatnot. Unless you were in like a DJ pool, like where you ordered like I can't remember what the name of them was, but they would come once a month and it would have like it'd basically be a compilation of all the newest songs. But when a good DJ could grab a new album and figure out that's going to be the radio hit right there. And this is going to be the one I'm going to spin in the club.
Yeah.
So when I was in the nightclub circuit as a DJ, so I hit in like 2004. I hit what they called a mixtape scene, which is you make a mixtape. You're shouting out your DJ names in between, like it was more of a street thing,
Right.
and you would put all the local artists on.
Okay.
And I put out a mixtape in 2004, and I put every artist in the state on that was huge, from Dayton Family to D12, pretty much anybody and everybody but Kid Rock and Eminem, because I just didn't have reach to them.
Right.
And MC Breed, any artists that were big in Saginaw, from Astray, Mag 7, all this. So you put out these mixtapes, and people would go crazy over them. I'd put out, I remember one year we put out like 30,000 of them.
Oh, wow.
Like insane. We'd sit there and print them all ourselves. So once that hit, but that was already when the internet was already, you could download music at that time.
Right.
But before that, again, you would have to find, your
Yeah.
own, unless it was on the radio, but you could, as a DJ, you could go through the album and listen to it and be like, yep, that's going to be their next single.
I'm just thinking about it too, like Columbia House. What a beast of a machine I'm sure they had to go bankrupt or something. I'm sure they weren't.
Well, yeah, once
everybody wasn't paying, but
once everything became free online, I feel that way about technology with studios. Like I if I tried to get in a studio when I was 18, no one would no one would have took me seriously, and I wouldn't be able to record music.
I just think like now, like what's the next thing? Like I feel like as we were just talking about that, I almost feel like there's going to be a surge of something where either the interest of music is going to change, like when grunge came out. I'm sure there's a new thing coming,
Well,
and what's
things are gonna start to come back. I think like the '90s right now has been trending for like the last 4 or 5 years.
yeah,
Well, actually before that, because it was before COVID. I mean, but that's what happens. Like, it could be Miley Cyrus going through her, you know, catalog of her mom's clothes when she wore in the '70s, and
right.
all of a sudden she starts wearing bell bottoms again, and then everybody's wearing it. It takes certain
Does
trendsetters to bring back these, but everything evolves. Even with music, though, like you're hearing all kinds of samples.
I know? I'm just like picturing like a 50s 50s rock, 50s something.
Well, look what Greta
That's
Van Fleet
coming.
did. I mean,
Yeah.
look at what Machine Gun Kelly did. Machine Gun Kelly
Yes, perfect
came out
example.
and brought pop punk rock back.
Yes.
Like
And
literally.
he put and it's different. And I feel like kind of like with your music too, where it's borderline. It's in this like it's your own genre.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like there's this. It's coming. Like there's
Yeah,
that
we've been
need.
waiting.
Well, yes, but
When
I
is
feel
Limp
like
Bizkit
it's
going to be a thing again? I mean, that's essentially what.
yeah,
I mean, because I've been in this business for so long. I can call up. I got friends and labels, and when I talk to them, I'm like, when you got, because their record labels are ahead of time.
yeah,
They know what's going on. They own the whole year. They know what artists they're putting out each quarter.
yeah,
So they know what they're doing in 25 right. They're looking at January of 25 right now.
yeah,
Who are we putting out? But they usually, I mean, the really good labels, they know the direction of music. They know where it's going. But with that being said, I'm always like, is rock rap coming back yet?
yeah,
Where you guys at with it? But and there's been times where they're like, it's actually coming back,
yeah,
and then it never does, or so, but and that leads into this, like the whole age thing drives me nuts because labels have drove into people's minds that you have to be a magazine model to become an artist,
yeah,
or you have to be a certain age.
yeah,
Rock and country have proven that wrong
yeah.
before.
Well, I mean, shows like The
but
Voice
hip hop
and
because pop music, it's young. But the reason why that has happened over the years is because at the end of the day, it's all about money.
yeah,
Well, what adult has time to sit all day and listen to music? Not a lot.
no, right,
So these kids are the ones that are buying music and begging their parents to go to concerts, and they have all day after they get out of school to listen to music, and in the summertime,
yeah,
all day to listen to music.
yeah,
So they wanted artists to appeal to the biggest selling
Right.
crowd, which was the youth.
right,
But like I remember when the guy from, I don't remember what show he was on. It was Ruben Studdard or whatever.
Oh, yeah,
the heavier set
yeah,
black
yeah.
guy. Like he was one of the first like heavy set people that like took off in mainstream, and I was like, see, you don't have to be skinny or
exactly.
and then the whole age thing, because people ask me all the time, like, how long are you gonna do this? And I'm like,
Till I
till I
can't.
die. I don't
Right.
like, I'll be the guy that'll do it when I'm old. I don't
Right.
care, like, because I'm not doing it for other people. I'm doing it
Right.
for me.
Right.
But the age factor just it's like, oh, I'm getting too old. It's like, well, who says who?
There was a girl.
Who puts you in that bubble to where you have to be a
Yeah,
certain age?
because there's a girl. I can't think again like which show it was with The Voice or it was one of those, and she was an older lady. I mean,
Well,
I want
those
to say 50,
shows,
but she did Bruno Mars at 24 Karat.
yeah.
Dude, she's in like her high heels and a jersey, just the jersey, and this
Well,
girl
that's what I
can
mean.
sing and
These
dance,
days
and you
with the
don't have
internet,
to have that.
and I'm gonna tell you exactly what it is. With the internet now, the labels lost control because anyone, you go on TikTok
TikTok,
or whatever,
YouTube.
you ever seen the two old guys that rap?
Yeah.
Like these guys, they don't need a label, and they're
Yeah.
both probably making. I mean, they could be millionaires for all we know.
Right.
Their platform is huge, so this is an era of independence.
Yeah.
Like the labels lost control, and the
So
independence.
kids, don't give up.
Yeah.
You just
Well,
gotta
and that's the thing. If
find.
you're a TikTok generation,
Yeah.
it's what's a record label? Like they don't
Yeah.
even.
What is
They're like
that?
what? They're not in control
Is it
anymore.
that little sticker on the back?
Yeah, yeah. Like they just don't know though. Like they're dumbfounded to everything is independent.
Yeah.
Like it's like it's interesting how technology has changed all that though.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's easier. It's more accessible. Little Johnny can go buy his own studio equipment, go in his basement, watch YouTube. You have other people to watch to be like, and there's so many of them.
You can
I can learn
learn
how to rap like
anything.
him. I could learn how to sing like him, but I want to look like him.
Yeah. It is so crazy. It reminds me of those little Barbie things when we were a kid that you stencil and you could push through with this head, this
Yeah.
part of the dress, and these shoes, or you can flip it this
Right.
way and you'd stencil in your.
But if there's a
So
market
crazy.
for it, and when you're independent, you just need to survive,
Yeah.
or your band or whatever.
Yeah.
So your big break could be going viral off something. You know,
Yeah.
like I went viral off a comedy reel, and I got like 52,000 followers off this reel. But now I'm connecting with them. Like,
Right.
I got the followers off a comedy reel. Had nothing to do with music,
Right.
but I'm connecting with those followers now because
Right.
they're, liking things and commenting and doing this and doing that. So, it's again, that's part of the business end of things. Like you have to have the business end in order to survive and be
Right.
financially make it make sense,
Right.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's interesting where everything is going though, especially with the independence. Like, that's why there's no control in music anymore,
Right.
which is a good thing. But where I come from, it's about respect, and I'm more in the hip hop culture, so it's hard sometimes just to watch these kids just I don't want to say waste their life away, but it's like you guys are getting face tattoos and tattoos all over your body, and you're not even a millionaire yet. Like you're not even you don't even have $5,000 in your bank account, I bet. And you're
Yeah.
doing all this. It's like, so
I got my first $1,000. I'm gonna stick it on my face.
yeah, it's like,
I'm gonna get that gold tooth.
what's plan B?
Yeah.
Are you gonna work at? I mean, I'm not here to degrade anybody, but are you gonna go get a minimum wage job?
And I think the other thing too is when you're young, you don't know. I mean, first of all, you don't know what you don't know.
yeah,
And we don't know our lives 10 years from now and how we're going to feel. But I certainly can look back 20 years ago. I can tell you I am not the same person, and neither are you or anybody else, the same person that we were 20 years ago. There's parts of us that are still the same, but we learn and we grow as we're growing. And these kids, it sucks. I mean, we knew everything when we were 16. Are you kidding me? I mean, every 16-year-old knows everything, but now the 16-year-olds really know.
well, they're
so
because they're
much
processing
more.
so much information.
Yeah.
Like, I have my 13-year-old with me now, and she is twice as smart as my other daughters were at that age for a reason, because she has a window to the world in the palm of her hand.
Yep.
And with the TikTok, and again, we're connected. These kids are growing up so fast
Yeah.
because of that.
Well, they're teaching more.
There's a lot of good things that come along with it, like the technical things. Like my 6-year-old daughter, I mean, she was using a phone when she was 3. I mean, but she's learning, you know, by using
Yeah.
these phones and
Yeah.
iPads. Like she's literally learning things off them, games and
Right.
educational things. But she's learning how to function. Her brain is growing off
Yeah.
it.
I know my grandson's 18 months. It's his favorite thing is the phone or the remote. And he knows that you can't just take the batteries out of the remote and think that I'm going to like it. No, I want to see the TV changing, the
Oh
volume
yeah,
going
the
up, it
the
coming off and
visual.
on.
Yeah.
Yep, and the same thing with the phone. You know, I have a lock screen on there, but he knows how to swipe it up. 18 months, swipe it up to get the camera. And he knows now if he pushes the red button, it's going to start recording.
Right.
Now, he hasn't figured out how to switch it around to his face yet, but I'm sure that's coming. But
Yeah,
I mean, 18
the
months,
curiosity that these kids have, especially it's this gadget that lights up. It does all these, it does. There's so many different things going
yeah,
on. It's like they want to hit
sensory
every color.
overload.
They want to hear sounds.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
We didn't have, we had balls and blocks and Barbies and
yeah.
stuffed animals.
My daughters had computers. I mean, but the games on the computers and
Yeah.
stuff. But the social media is what they didn't have. Like
Yeah.
they had, I think, I remember getting them iPods. you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
which was cool because they had music on there. It was like basically your Walkman.
I can't figure this out just real quick. We're probably going to start wrapping up, but I had my little iPod, MP3, whatever it is, and I'll bet you any money I spent $200 or $300 on music in that thing.
Oh yeah,
I still have it.
the ringtone era.
I don't know how to get into it and get my music off of it.
You got a passcode on it.
Well, I downloaded it.
Give it to your grandchild. She'll figure it out.
Yeah, no kidding. I always said, like if I couldn't find something, I would ask the kids, like when they were small. No, we can't go to the park until you find my driver's license, because I've been looking for it for
Yeah.
5 hours. And sure shit, they find it.
Yeah.
5 minutes. I can't find my keys. Now I'm like, I need an air tag for my keys. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
or I need an air tag for my phone. The things that I lose the most, where the kids are like, it's right here.
Right.
Real fast.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Yeah. But yeah, we're gonna start wrapping it up. But is there anything that you have for the viewers? Anything that might inspire them to keep the music playing?
Well, as far as like the original music scene, as being a promoter, being in a band, being a booking agent, playing so many different roles in the music industry. I mean, what like when I run into other bands and one of their more humble members come up, because they're all rock stars and everybody wants to be a rock star. I
Right.
get it, but some of them will come and be like, man, what are you guys doing to because we keep getting all these shows, and it's like, well, we want it.
Yeah.
Like, we want this isn't just, we're not just doing this to put a band picture together and
Right.
pull
Right.
women. Like,
Right.
I really want this. Like, this
Yeah.
is what I'm really doing in real life, not just on the internet.
Right.
So, when I look at local bands, local artists, it's one of the things I look at is like, do these guys really want it, or is it good enough? Are they happy enough?
Right.
So-
Because I do feel like you have some bands out there. You got one person who's maybe writing music, whatever, but they don't really. Either there's no communication, or they're just not practicing. They're not honing in on
It's
their
either,
craft
but
together.
it's either
or,
in you or it's not.
Yeah.
And some people, they're just dabbling and they just want to have fun with it, and that's
Yeah.
cool. That's
Yeah.
great. But there's some people that are like, I'm in this for life. Like, this is in my blood, in my veins.
Yeah.
And for those people, they just need to realize that you need to envision yourself more than local. You need to be able to go picture yourself going into a different city and playing this music, how are you going to capture them?
Yeah.
What are you? Who
I
are you?
I 100% with you on that. I mean, I'm a huge manifester in my head, and I do believe that if you want something bad enough, you will claw and fight your way because it's in you. It's what drives you, what made you wake
Mm-hmm.
up today.
Yeah.
And because it's that, I'm going to study it. I'm going to listen to every person that I can listen to from here on out. And
Yeah, and that honestly, that's a huge point because people don't like to listen anymore. They need to humble themselves, and it's you're if you know it all, then you're never going to learn anything. So
right.
again, ego gets in the way, pride gets in the way, the enviness. The people that want to make it will learn how to bury all those things
Yeah.
and to just be a sponge, and
Yeah.
give credit where credit needs to be given. You
Right.
know, like I give credit, I give credit to certain people in my career that helped me.
Yeah.
I would never leave them out
Right.
because I wouldn't have got past that step without them.
Right.
But there are a lot of people that like to learn off other people, or you know, and they just take credit, or they
Yeah.
got there's a brain. I was a brain in a lot of operations, and I never got credit for it, but I'm okay with that. It was a learning process,
Right.
whatever. But I would never be that guy. I would never be that guy to not give somebody
Right.
credit. Jason Jewell is one that, you know, I've taught him a lot about
I mean, and he
about the.
gives you so. I mean,
He gives
he
me too
really.
much,
I
too
mean,
much. Like,
he loves you,
slow down
man.
there, buddy.
He loves you.
Yeah, yeah. Like some people might think we're like partners or something.
No,
No,
not
but
like that.
so back to actually him before you wrap it up. I watched the podcast, and he exaggerates a little bit because he said something about the police
Oh
officer.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But he wasn't in uniform. He didn't mention that. Like
Oh
I
yeah,
wasn't
okay.
like,
Yeah.
I got out of the car and it was an older gentleman, and I knew he was an off-duty cop, but I was like, listen, you're not on duty. Like, you're not going to use your authority
Right.
to just sit here and boss people around.
Right.
You don't know what's going on in our situation, so get back in your car and hit the road.
Right.
I was that guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then yeah, yeah. But anyway,
Yeah.
no, I love inspiring younger musicians and helping people out. Like I've always been the guy to help other bands and give them pointers, but nobody comes to me and they don't want to ask me. They don't
And I
want to.
don't.
They don't want to give. They think my head's gonna blow up or something.
And I don't. Yeah. I mean, and I think because I know you, I guess I don't. I don't look at you. I guess I don't look at you that way. Like I don't have that. Like I just know.
Well, again, perception. You know who I am
right?
because we're
Where like
friends.
to me, like if anybody really knew, I mean, we're gonna post or put in a link to how to reach you. If there's a link to Rock Hop Radio, any of the information to hear your music, all that kind of stuff, we're gonna put that link on. But don't ever hesitate to ask Chris Redburn. I think it's, again, one of the things that I love and admire about you the most is that you're humble and you're so easy to talk to. I mean, honestly, an hour before this podcast, we sat here and talked. It's just another person, and he gives constructive
But just
criticism. I
imagine
love
this:
it.
if I held like a conference on the music industry and all the knowledge that I've learned and all the what I know, you'd be surprised on how many people wouldn't show up
Well, yeah,
because they don't want to they don't want to accept that you know anything. Like it's
right.
an ego thing.
And you could put it on for free, and I'm still.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
We
yeah.
used to do these record pool meetings where we would do this.
Yeah.
And again, it's just it's a waste of my time because people just they don't want to accept, like, who is this guy? Like he
Right.
doesn't know. It's ego, pride. It's like I said, give credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
And you know, I've always been a person to give people the secret or what worked for me. You know,
Right.
I love watching documentaries where, you know, these big artists and bands,
I'm a
they're like, this
huge
is how I got
documentary
signed.
fan.
This is how it worked out for me.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued on those
Yeah.
because, you know, I was always wanting it to work out for me.
Right.
And everybody wants that, but really deep down, does everybody want that? I've
Right.
offered bands, let's go on a national tour.
Yeah.
They don't want to go on a national tour. They want to stay right where
I
they're
think
at
it's scary.
in the little
Do
pocket
I
that they're in.
Exactly. I mean,
It's amazing
and
how many people you give that opportunity to, and they
Yeah.
don't want it.
yeah, it does blow my mind just a little bit because
Yeah.
I know of some
Yeah.
that they act like it. Well, I was asked.
Because the road is
So-
not your friend.
No,
The
right.
road is the unexpected.
But if
It's
you
the
have too much
unknown.
going on in your home life, you think that this is what you want, but really, you couldn't do it if you wanted to because you can't.
Well, yeah.
You-
Number one,
you're not willing to
You
leave
ready
your
to
job?
leave your girlfriend for
Yeah.
3 months?
Yeah,
Do you trust her? I mean,
Right.
just that alone is like, yeah, I ain't going.
right. And I'd been like, hell yeah, I'm going. If she cheats, guess what?
Did me a favor.
Exactly.
But it's again, the road is, it's not a fun place.
Yeah.
It really isn't.
Yeah.
Especially
it's a Bob Seger song.
especially
Or
if
Kenny Rogers song.
Yeah, and it is it beats you up.
Yeah.
So many things happen on the road when I was on the road that were not fun at all, and you just want to be home.
Yeah.
You miss your kids. You just want to lay in your own bed. Like, it's not fun at
Yeah.
all. Sometimes.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's not.
So if anything out of that is be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But if you wish it and you have the drive for it, study and ask questions,
Mm-hmm.
learn everything that you can, be the sponge.
Yeah. Humble yourself.
Yeah, be humble. All right, well, all that being said, we are going to wrap it up. And stay tuned next week for the Rain and Blood interview, which is the Slayer tribute we have coming here at the Vault on Saturday, the March 2nd. Oh, which is also Steven's birthday. So feel free to go in the comments and say happy birthday on Saturday. Thank you guys so much. Keep the music playing.